Hey there, Boots Owen here. This is my Volkswagen Golf Estate and I've just fitted a tow bar onto the back of it. Right there. Stick with me through this video and I'll show you how I did it. To get the bumper off, you have to take off a load of screws, including these ones here. There's a Torx one that goes up here, that's directly to the bumper. But to get the bumper off, you have to take the mudguard off. It has 4 Phillips head screws in this case, and 2 clips. The clips just pull off. You don't even have to pull them off, just pull the mud flap off with them. They're falling off as it is, but to get them off you can't get a screwdriver in, so you got to take the wheel off. That's the biggest bit of this job really. It pays to give the screw heads a wire brushing first. It doesn't take very long. Then that's the clip that's holding it on still. Pop, just like that. It's all filthy, it's a car. Those clips don't seem to have been doing much, but what ho. Then inside there's another couple of, if I can find them, and then there's a few more on the back I'll show you. So there's 3 Torx screws, the one up on top that you can get to before the mud flap, and then those 2. Around here you've got to take off the tail light cluster on each side, because underneath that there's a screw hole in there you can't get to by any means without taking off the lights. It has one of these guys, another Torx head. To get this off from the back of it, it'll be easier. Well, maybe I should try and push it in and show it that way. Inside it's held on with 3, you can just see the tips of them coming over there. It's held on with 3, 1, 2 and 3 in the center screws. So you have to take the nuts, there they are there. You have to take those nuts off. Then this you just grip it with your hand and pull it out. You kind of move it to the side a bit. You don't have to unclip it or anything. Unclip the wires. Take off that one there, and then it has a counterpart on this side. Bumper's already loose over here. And then beneath, as usual, something more tricky. Beneath there is another one up in here. So if that's the towing eye there, there's one there. Oh, there's one in the center, I missed that. And 1 over there as well. Some of them can be stiff and some of them can be full of dirt, so the wire brush is important. These ones are not a self-tapper, so they've got a thread, like an M6 I think. That one's kind of sticky on the end. And this is by far the trickiest of the 3 here, because the back of the thread gets covered in rust and you can't get to it anyways because it's underneath that bloody bumper. So you can see that it's covered in rust. Except that I have wires in it for reversing sensors. This is what we have to take out. That beam there just needs to be replaced. That's the bit of the job really. Better disconnect the reversing sensors. I've posted a video about fitting them another time. So there's the new beam and there's the old bumper beam. The old one's got to come off and disappear, and then I've got to get this one out first so I can see up here 1, and beneath 2. Where's it gone? Here. Very simple really, it's just a piece of pressed steel. It's much lighter than the one I'm replacing it with. In the center here there's this rubber grommet, so I can run the wires through there. I've got a 6mm, I think it's 6mm. Maybe that helps. There we go. So this new bracket will slot into these 2 holes here and over there, and it'll be secured by the screws here and here. There's 2 sets of holes. The ones that are here and here I think are A holes, if that makes sense, A holes, and they hold this in further for a hatchback, and then the latter 2, the other 2 holes even latter, the ones that are to the lefter, they're what'll hold it onto a variant. Now in here you can't see any holes, but here has a piece of tape. No gloves for a reason. If you get the tape and you pull it off, it comes off. There's a little hole in there, a little slot. A bit rusty, but just put that on to protect the underbody seal, I guess. At least to do that. Yeah, perfect. That one's a little bit better. It really is just tape. So just looking at how the holes line up, they do line up perfectly. Let's sit there. So the torque setting for these is 68 Newton meters. So I've got it set to. There you go, and this one. There we go, 68. I'm going to have to make a cut to the bumper underneath to accommodate this thing here. It's not a big cut, but I have to remove a bit of plastic, and so to do that, to know where it's going to go, I've just offered up the bumper and just hung it in the right position above, and I'll mark it out. People all seem to be agreed that this is the worst bit of the job because you're cutting into the car. So I've marked here and here. I'm going to come back to here, I think. I think using the drill makes a neater finish, and I've cut it probably a bit wide, but I think that makes it easier to fit. Within there's a series of slots and tabs for them, and they have to line up, and once they do, it just snaps in quite beautifully. It's very simple, really. So there's not much to this, putting this on. You just slide it into the two top holes on this model and go for it. But this thing, I realized once I had fitted that wire before, that you must remove this bracket, or I guess I could have used this bracket, but to get it off I had to either cut the cable, cut the bracket, or unthread the cable. So I ended up pulling the bumper off again to unthread that cable, which is a bit of a pain, but no biggie. It has screws and holes there for nuts and bolts. Not very complex, really. Nothing, absolutely nothing to it. There's a gasket on these. I haven't touched the wiring inside this plug. The wheel nuts are also 19mm, and the torque rating on this is 79 Newton meters. That's it. Doesn't feel like much to me. That's it. Click, click. Put all of the screws back in then, I'll spare you that. So I'm in one of the wheel arches here, and I've got to put this mudguard back on, and I've got to put the screws back in for the bumper first. So let's do that. One up there. You can see where they were because there's an imprint on the plastic. It's on the other side already. It's the clips that are kind of tricky. Now this side is actually missing one of the clips, but in here there's two metal clips. There should be a third one down at the bottom in there. Get something with a point on it Just pop them off because it won't go back on. It'll come off without taking them off. Maybe it shouldn't. It won't go back on. Lever them off. Get a spike or something. Just check that groove is clear. There's a lot of dust. And then you see these two tabs here and here. That's what the clip was holding on. See to bend them out so that we can get this mud flap back on. There's another one. It's all broken down here. It looks like the tire was rubbing against it and caused it to flip out. Doesn't matter, it is what it is now. So, push it in, try and line it up with where it was. For no real reason, I put the screws in first. I'm guessing you have to take off the wheel to do this job, because I cannot see how you could do it otherwise. And you do need to remove them to remove the bumper, which is tricky. It's a tricky job getting the wheel off to do this, you know, otherwise it would be quite quick. The 3 screws were accessible, and maybe a right angled screwdriver. I got some of them out with a right angled screwdriver like this, but because they've been in the weather for 19 years or something like that, they're not easy to, they don't want to come out, put it that way. Once you have them turning, they turn, but they just they're tricky. Last one here, push them on. That's it. Put your wheel back on and we're good to go. I've gotten the bumper back on. I'm at the stage of wiring. I've pulled off this trim piece here. I think it was meant to slide left or right, but I just pulled it straight up and I'm pretty sure I broke some of the clips. I'll deal with that later. I've stripped back a lot of the cable. I don't really know that I needed to do that. It's coming in from there. I'm going to attach it with cable ties or something to this, going along here and then in here. To pull the wire through this stretch here, I've got a piece of copper wire just out of 3-core electrical cable. I've run that down and then I've hooked it over like this. Just give it a twist. Let's see if I can pull that around then. It's actually coming through quite easily. There we go. So here's the words on this document. If you want to press pause, you can tell where I got it from. Press pause. And I did some tracing and I found this BL brake light, BR tail light, NES fog light. 31 I took to be the earth, not S. S I took to be the indicator, and RF reversing. So you have to marry the cables up like this. Yellow goes to the yellow of the audible sensor. So it comes with this, the kit comes with this sensor with 5 wires. It's just a thing that goes beep when it indicates, as far as I can tell. And on the back of the light cluster you can see these little connectors, and you can get onto them with a spade connector, female part of a spade connector, and where they're too close together and different types of wire, I've had to use just insulating tape, but I prefer to do that than to use these splice connector things that snap onto the wire. So I've done it this way and hopefully it works. There's the way you route the wires, and you've got to use left hand brakes and tails on each side, so you've got to run wires over to the cluster over on this side, but only 2 wires there, and that's my reversing sensors, the other set of wires there. So route the wires, I'll tidy them up later, and then just tuck all this back in, snap the cluster back in, and that should be it, good to go. This has taken me longer than doing all of the other stuff, just figuring out this wiring, and I think that's more a reflection on me than anything else. I'm saving, I think, £150 of fitting fees by doing this myself and taking between 11 o'clock and it's now 5 o'clock, and I've done other things throughout the day, but you know, I'm talking 5 hours here, 2 hours fitting the thing and 3 hours faffing around with this wiring, and probably another hour of tidying up after this. So that's the long and the short of it. To test it, you can plug a trailer in and just test the lights, or you can get a tester that plugs in this little handheld device. I have neither, so I'm waiting to get a loan of a trailer to test it, but if there's anything wrong I'll just swap the wires around until it works. Overall the job took me 2 hours to fit the bar or thereabouts and 4 hours to mess around with the wiring. I have a feeling if I was doing it again it wouldn't take very long at all. A lot of it depends on your skill with wiring in that case, but the actual pulling off of the tow bar, it does take time. Questions or comments, leave them below. Thanks for watching, see you later.